drawing number 4 for your sketchbook, and that's a composition of 3 apples on a plate. Pay attention to scale and proportion when you position the apples, right? In relationship to interior diameter of the plate here, right? Scale and proportion, elevation of apples, check those out too, where the stems hit, where the shadows lie down, all right? So they're amorphic forms, but they are spherical, pretty much in a sense of that nature of that form, depending on the apple that you get. The apple has a highly reflective surface, just like the pepper did, and then also that structure of the plate is highly reflective as well. Start the whole drawing out as a line composition drawing, just get the sense of scale and proportion, get the elliptical shape of that plate down. Pay attention to the grounding shadows. The intense dark shadows that you see here and here on those apples coming down, those are your grounding shadows. That's going to anchor that form down as you're doing the drawing. Most of that drawing is illuminated based upon this light form here coming up, coming down on top of that form. The front edge of that plate, always draw that so it's thicker. As that comes towards you and drops low on that curve, make it thicker towards the center and compress it going back and away from you. That's going to force a perspective on that plate and make that plate look like it's going back into space. So you're looking at a shape like this here. See what I mean? Wider to the front, smaller to the back. It's kind of like 1-point perspective in relationship to that. Use the eraser a lot, especially pulling up those highlights. So if you start the drawing, keep your marks light, pay attention to shape of light and shadow, and on these forms, the light and shadow is always working on a curve, the curve of the plate as well as the curve of the apple itself. So all those shadow forms are going to be slightly curved linear shapes, right? Gray tones, intense darks, and lights. Lights become foreground, gray tones are middle ground, darks are background. Those intense darks take your eye back, and those intense lights bring it forward. So if you don't have a high contrast within your drawing, you're going to lose a sense of spatial depth and dimension. So high contrast, really push those darks. And that's why I'm doing these drawings in charcoal, so that you can see how dark you can go with that charcoal pencil in a relationship to that grounding shadow. See what I mean? And then look at the gradation of those grounding shadows. So if it's a little bit lighter through here, you can use your eraser and you can pull that back through and transition that shadow from there, from that intense dark tone directly underneath here, working on that curve to a lighter gray tone. But that's what's nice about working with the charcoal and also working with the eraser at the same time. That you can pick up and you can create those transitions of light and shadow. So closer underneath the plate, the darker it gets. And then as it comes out towards you, that shadow starts receiving light and it changes its value. It goes from an intense dark to a middle ground gray to a reflective light form, then back into another gray tone. So wherever you see a dark, you're going to see a light. Whenever you see a light, you're going to see a dark or a gray tone, and vice versa. So all of that is going to find its way through, and it becomes very important that you get a balanced composition, structure of light and shadow as well. I just want to do a little bit more right down here. I want to drop that into a curve, because that curve right now sets off the grounding shape and shadow of that form just by doing that little curve there. And I see it, and then pick up on that before. But as you work through the drawing and you get it mostly accomplished, you're going to be able to move back into it and start to fine-tune that drawing and pick up on those light value changes here, as you see here. And don't worry about all the marks you make on that. The marks become important. They're all part of the process. And as you develop that drawing, just stay with the drawing. Just keep going. Don't give up. The important thing is to, once you have the energy and you have the focus, just like anything else that you do, the focus becomes more important. So you got to tune into the concept of that drawing and follow through and just pay attention. So direct observation is a really great way to go. And that's what these object drawing lessons are all about. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. Scale and proportion is up to you. I always recommend that you fill the page when you do the drawing. Hugely important. Right? So everybody has a scale that they like to draw to. Find your scale, keep working on it, and keep drawing. And focus your attention back onto the composition of the line study, the shape of light and shadow, the balance of high contrast into light, and then scale and proportion. And you're going to do well. Thank you again.